Now, from Austin, Texas, Politics with the Big Dogs, and your host, Anthony Holm.
Hello. This is Anthony Holm, and you're listening to Politics with the Big Dogs. We have a great show for you in store today. I don't think the guys are going to believe this, but it's shockingly and sadly, it's true. A Canadian court recently codified into law a throuple, meaning three parents. Three. So three men, all in a relationship together, all intimate with each other, three gay men, were awarded custody, allowed to adopt a child. A throuple. This isn't a one-off. It's the first I'd heard of it, but it isn't a one-off. Guess what? A number of states and jurisdictions in America allow something very similar. This is, I was about to say, coming to a life in a land near you, but apparently it's already here. So no doubt Hollywood will be embracing this soon, and Netflix and other programs who are trying to brainwash our children and brainwash our society into some of the craziest things of child gender transitioning, and Timmy has two dads in our public libraries of little school children is now almost certainly going to be talking about throuples. So a judge said, yes, all three of you are recognized as a legal family unit, the three adult men, and you are all three equally and separately recognized as the parent of this little girl. Wow. Three names on the birth certificate. So this has been a contested issue, it turns out, in America. It was the first time I'd heard of it, probably the first time you're hearing about it. However, in America, in the U.S., we've been having issues percolate about more than one name on the more than two names on the birth certificate for at least the last 20 years, and a number of states and jurisdictions have permitted this conduct. It's a little bit different than the way I read the Canadian implication, but nonetheless, there are throuples technically in the U.S. in a number of places. So, what is a throuple? It is a multi-parent family, and in this instance, multi being defined as more than two. A throuple is a multi-parent family being defined as more than two. So there have been a lot of complaints, a lot of litigation, a lot of marching in the streets, it turns out, because families have been unable to list more than two birth parents. But no longer in Canada, at least the Montreal area of Canada. I'm not sure about how their judicial courts and regions are segregated. And it turns out a number of U.S. states and jurisdictions have been able to do this as well. What's it mean? What does it mean in North America, the U.S., and Texas? What are the implications now of parental rights or child welfare? And why stop at three? Why not have four? What does this mean in view of the family structure to our value system in the Judeo-Christian world that we in the United States embrace? And how has this been happening under our noses? Much like this reminds me so much of the Younger case, the fellow in Dallas-Fort Worth who had a little boy, a couple of children. Wife was a pediatrician. They ended up divorced, but she was telling, I believe, the then 6-year-old little boy, "Now you're really a girl. You're really a girl." And monsters don't chase the boys, just the girls. And went to the Texas Supreme Court. Texas Supreme Court did not intervene. The mom ended up taking the child to California, which had recently passed, gender transitioning for authorities and rules and laws, and the availability of puberty blockers and otherwise for children of such a young age. I'm wondering if we're going to have 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 adults all identified as the parents of children in Texas. If this is a battle we're going to have to take, if 3 men show up and say we're all the parent or the daddy of this little girl, will the Texas Supreme Court do something about it? Do we have to go and pass a law after the fact, after the harm has been done to a family, like the Younger case? I'm just unclear. It's time to get our heads around this, people. Sadly, this is what's happening, and it's endemic of a broader trend in society. Adoption and surrogacy and non-traditional families and Netflix and other Hollywood indoctrination programs that'll say, hey, be alert, be aware, we're going to have bright lights. If you have PTSD, this television program, this movie, it could cause you harm. We're going to give a warning to that. But they're not going to give a warning if it's two little children transitioning, or if the adult saying, you're really identifying as a girl, aren't you? And we're going to tell the doctors, and we're going to tell everybody in this television show to call this little girl Susie Tommy, because that's what she identifies with. They are indoctrinating these young minds that are like Play-Doh. They're pliable to ideas. They're pliable to this mindset, the poor little things. And now a number of children who are transitioned have come into young adulthood and are speaking out. What a terrible thing that happened to me. I regret it so much. Yet the left just keeps moving farther. And Hollywood and society is trying to move farther to the left. We now have Throuples in the lead of the news. 3 men all equally adopting a child with equal parental rights. And it turns out this has already happened in a number of jurisdictions in America. Is it happening in Texas? And if not, when will this effort begin in Texas? Just like the child transitioning, sex transitioning, just like the drag queens reading stories at the public libraries to our young children, no doubt this non-traditional throuple-style family is on the horizon. And do we need to go, us, people of like-minded sanity and family values, folks who are oriented in the welfare and the safety of children, do we need to go and get in front of this? And while we're fighting for lower property taxes in the state of Texas, also have to go and fight against this Throuples mindset. We may. It's tragic, but we may. So we're going to review that in depth. We're going to review a number of topics that are impacting Texas, how we benefit from a sane and reasonably sane legal structure in the state of Texas and a legislative structure in the state of Texas, but how we have to be ever diligent. And we are seeing it obvious in the transitioning of children before we pass the law, before we all banded together, pass the law. We're seeing the abuses in the property tax system, and we're seeing a number of our so-called Republican judges fail us, just top to bottom fail us. There's no way around it. And from the attack on values and religious values and family values in courts of law to Mr. Younger watching his wife take his son, who she's calling a daughter, to California and begin transitions, and now multi-parental units. I don't know how else to say it. This word Throuples. I'm so stunned by it. 3 men all adopting a daughter together. It's going to be 4 and 5. Where are the constraints? Where's the reasoned? And where's just the love for America? Our values of family and faith. We're just being attacked left and right. Folks are marching in the streets to march for the Muslim faith, advance Throuples. We're the people who think a man is a man and a woman is a woman, and it takes a man and a woman to have a child, and 2 people are legal parents, not a third. This is Anthony Holm with Politics for the Big Dogs. Thank you for tuning in. We have a great show today. Hold tight, with more coming at you.
Keeping Texas free. Keeping Texas from not becoming California. Keeping it real. Politics with the Big Dogs. Find us at politicswiththebigdogs.com.
All right, folks, thanks. If you're just tuning in, we're getting rolling. This is Anthony Holm with Politics for the Big Dogs. Please go to politicswiththebigdogs.com, sign up for our newsletter, become more engaged, send questions, we'll address them, give us show topics that you think are important. What we're talking about today is something that's, I almost snicker when I say it, but sadly it's just true. Like so much in the radical left, this notion of Throuples. 3 men in Canada were given all joint and shared custody of a child. And the court system with children is generally what's in the best welfare, what's in the best interest of the child. So not all of us are lawyers, but I'm not a family lawyer. Obviously, you guys know I do mostly semi-truck crashes. But we've all been exposed to this, exposed to the law, whether you're going to law school or not, and exposed to the notion of family law. And generally the default position is what's in the best interest of the child. So the court in Canada, and it turns out a number of jurisdictions in the U.S., California is one of them, go figure, but shockingly, Louisiana and other jurisdictions have permitted this. Other states and areas have permitted this, and judges for like 20 years. I was very surprised that this is happening throughout the U.S. So, What's the purpose of family law here? What's the purpose of having adoption laws if we're not going to recognize what is stable care of a child and clear parental rights and responsibilities? And traditionally what we have done, we've said, hey, a mom and a dad, they have the rights and privileges to this child. They may not be great moms and dads, but nonetheless, they have the pole position in the rights and privileges, and they also have the pole position, the duties, the highest duty in welfare of the child, tending to that child. So if you get more than two, what happens if those three men all break up? We're going to have three people sharing custody? Who's liable for the child? What about inheritance rights? What if one passes away? What if there's a conflict between one of the dads and the other two on one side wanting the kid to go to a certain school and the third dad says no, no, no? Or two of them want them to join a religious cult or members of what we would call a religious cult, and the third one does not. Where do these tiebreakers go? How do you what if there's a fourth? I mean, we can all see where this is going. This is problematic, obviously, and it's so confusing to the child. There's no mom and there's three dads. So we as leaders of the conservative movement in Texas, stood up against all these 6'5", 40-year-old men showing up at our public libraries in full drag to read stories, indoctrinating our 6, 7, 8, and 9-year-old children into Tommy has two daddies. Now Tommy's going to have three daddies. Where does this nonsense end? How are we not, as a society, looking at what is in the best interest of the children? Instead, we're telling them, you really identify as a little girl, and Tommy has three dads and no mom, and that's healthy, and that's normal, and that's good. Oh, but guess what? I'm Netflix, and we have bright lights, and we may trigger PTSD on this, so be warned. But we're not going to warn you about the three dads that Tommy has, and we're not going to warn you that an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old are portrayed as identifying as a different gender. No wonder people are canceling their Netflix subscription. No wonder YouTube and social media and those who are stifling conservative voices, and it's not even conservative, it's the voice of reason, are being targeted by the silent majority, folks like you and I, who are just going to work, trying to raise our family, doing our thing, but we know that this is wrong-headed. Three dads is fundamentally wrong-headed, fundamentally hurtful and harmful to a child. So there's a whole bunch of legal questions that come from this stuff, and there's a whole bunch of ethical questions. If these three men break up, who all pays child support? Who makes medical decisions? Who's authorized in the case of an emergency? Like all three of them? Just one of them? Do they have to be there collectively? It's just shocking. It's diluting accountability and complicating decision and dispute resolution and decision making. And folks, I bet you didn't realize that this is happening across America already. It's happened in Alaska. Now, it was a little bit different, but effectively it was the same outcome. There was a mama who was ill. She was terminally ill or thought she would die, and there was a male couple, and she wanted to leave her child to this couple. So she convinced a judge to effectively memorialize a three-way family. There's a law passed in California in 2013 that says a court in the state of California can declare that a child has more than two parents and consider them all in custody, all responsible for child support in all other contexts. And that was, it was a function of a lesbian couple who were inseminated, so the biological father was engaged, so it's two moms and the biological dad, and that brought about a law saying all three shall be parents. So we've had throuples. That's what this is called. I became aware of it because of the Canadian situation that was just in some of the headlines, but This has been happening in the United States for some time. The state of Delaware, generally not an unreasonable, a liberal state, but not an unreasonable state, certainly usually known as a pro-business state, they've recognized 3 parents for some time, over a decade. And that the court said also in 2013 that it's appropriate to give legal parental status to 3 people in this case. Wow. A biological mom, the dad, and the husband as de facto parents. So Delaware, California, Alaska. We think of Florida, conservative state. And also in 2013, the state of Florida put 3 parents' names on a Miami girl's birth certificate. A lesbian couple, so a woman, and a man. Wow. Louisiana. In Louisiana, more than one court is allowed for dual paternity, so 2 dads. 2 dads. Back in 2010, the high court in Louisiana, they said it was okay for a tripartite custody. Tri being 3. 3-party custody. Now, in that instance, it was biological parents and a grandmother had adopted the child. But that's a mom, a dad, and a grandma, all having equal rights under the law and equal responsibilities. 2015, Maine got into the action. The governor of Maine, as I understand it, vetoed a law allowing more than 2 parents, and the legislature in Maine overrode the veto of the governor. It's just shocking what's happening. Shocking. More than 2 parents in the eyes of the law. New Jersey, tri-parenting, 2015. A woman, a man, and his husband all became legal parents in a 2015 ruling under the court of a 6-year-old child. In New York, 3 parties are known to be parents in the eyes of the law. A judge granted it, said it was in the best interest of a child. The first one that I could find in the state of New York some years ago, it said a 10-year-old boy loves his father and his 2 mothers. That's a tri-custody event. Huh. Okay, Judge. I don't doubt that a child loves these adults. I don't doubt that these adults love that child. What is in the best interest of the child? And how do we integrate children into society who have 3 or 4 legal parents? Talk about confusing. If you're just joining us, this is Anthony Holm, Politics with the Big Dogs, and we are talking about what is being called throuples. And it is new to me. I suspect it's new to you. If not, then apologies. You're aware of it. It turns out Canada recently said 3 adult men who are all in a relationship together can adopt a little girl. And that's where I caught the news. I thought, So all right, so we have another liberal movement coming on, like transitioning our children. No, you really identify as a little girl, not a boy. Or the drag queens, adult men dressing up in drag in our public libraries reading, Tommy Has 2 Daddy books to our children, to our young children. I just thought that would be the next wave. So I did some research on it. It turns out I was wrong, flat wrong. A number of states over the last 10 to 15 years have been allowing 3 adults onto children's birth certificates. I don't know if this is legal in Texas. If it is, we need to stop it and ban it, I believe. Those are my values and my moral values and what I think is clearly in the best interest of the child and the state. Confusing a kid to say you have 3 legal dads and no mom, that's just shocking and stunning. And I don't know, I don't trust our courts anymore to engage, right? They left Mr. Younger hanging. The Texas Supreme Court, even though it's all Republican, they have just left a lot of conservative opportunity fly by, and a lot of harm has come to folks. There's now a movement to outlaw family values and religious values and this language around them and examples of them in Texas courts. Heavy movement, even among Republicans, just insane. So North Dakota, Maine, Delaware, New York, Alaska, all have had 3 or more adults as co-parents under the law and on birth certificates. Oregon, similar situation. They're allowing 3-parent adoptions in the last several years that I have found, a little more recently than the other courts. But Pennsylvania, which is not known as a radical state, somewhat moderate, they had a 2007 case that I found where a man fathered a child with a lesbian couple. So it's two women and a man, and the couple broke up, and he had to contribute child support, which I don't think is unreasonable, frankly. If you sire a child, you ought to pay for him. In that instance, at least, the law said, well, you have a duty to pay for the child, so presumably you have some rights as well, but an indispensable third party, I believe, is what the court said it. So in that instance, you got two women and a man who all have some amount of custodial obligations and presumably parental rights that come with them. So that's back to 2007, almost 20 years ago. And then Washington State was the other state that I could find that they've recognized third parents. You know, I don't know what else to say. A mom, a biological dad, and her husband who helped raise the child. And in that instance, best I can tell from the court case, the biological dad didn't even know he was a father. That's I don't want to call it reasonable, but I understand how and why the court got there. A biological dad finds out that he has a child who's age X, call it 10 years old, and shows up and says, hey, I want some custodial rights. And the biological mom's married to another fellow who might not even have realized that wasn't his kid. So there's three adults who are trying to engage in the parenting. Washington State case, I don't think it should be authorized under the law. I'm suspect that it is, but I understand how and why they got there. And then in Washington, D.C., best I can tell, it's muddled, right? Not a state, a District of Columbia, obviously, a hybrid in our system, but it looks like they have carved out a way for more than two parents to have some types of rights and duty with a child that may not be officially stamped as parental rights, but it looks like a lot they pretty well got there without saying that directly. So 6 or 7 states, as far back as 18 years ago, have been having tri-party parental rights and memorialized custody in the United States. Not just the wacko Californias, Louisiana, Pennsylvania, Florida. Florida. Holy smokes, I had no idea. So, folks, if you're just tuning in, we're talking about the throuple. This is a new word to me, where 3, in this instance, the one I'm talking about primarily is Canadian, but it's happening throughout the U.S. already. Go figure. I didn't understand there were transitioning children until that all, 6-year-olds are being told, 6-year-old little boys are being told they're really little girls, and they're sexually transitioning them and dressing them as girls. Frankly, in my mind, that is child abuse, but I've stumbled upon that it was somewhat common activity about 5 or 6 years ago. We outlawed it, hallelujah, in the state of Texas. We created an environment where doctors were forbade from transitioning and giving hormone blockers to, young girls to keep them from their bodies developing. And a lot of those folks who want to do it have moved to California, who did the exact opposite and said, we're a safe zone for this conduct and activity. Basically, child abuse, safe zone for child abuse, in my very fervent belief and position. So now these throuples are happening, and we're learning that children have been adopted by 3 or more adults. And it's happening in a number of states in the U.S. And my question is it happening in Texas? And if so, are the courts intervening? They have not intervened for a number of social issues. We've got a real problem I didn't realize was happening in the court system in Texas. And if this is happening, if 3 men are adopting a little girl and all co-parenting until they break up, or 3 women, or 4 or 5 even, there's no numerical limitation, just all the examples have been 3. This is happening in Texas. Why is it happening in Texas? And we should outlaw it. Go to politicswiththebigdogs.com. Send your thoughts. Let's have a discussion. Sign up. Listen. or watch the other programs as well, there's lots of action here. We're going deep dives into the seedy underbelly of the Texas Capitol. I'm Anthony Holm, coming to you from Big Spring to Baytown and beyond.
Don't believe everything you hear from Austin. Trust Politics with the Big Dogs. Here's more with Anthony Holm.
Make sure you go to politicswithbigdogs.com, sign up for our newsletter, engage with us, follow us on Facebook, Politics with the Big Dogs. All the episodes are available YouTube channel, Politics with the Big Dogs, and, of course, on Twitter. It's Politics, I think, WTB Dogs. If you put in Politics with the Big Dogs on Twitter, formerly Twitter, now X, you'll be able to follow us for the latest and breaking news. So what's this mean? You know, it appears to me, I'm not certain, but it appears to me that the state of Texas does not currently recognize more than 2 adults as legal parents, period. But I'm a little bit uncertain of that, and I don't have any confidence that the courts would uphold that standard. It may just be silent on the law. But what does it mean when these other states are doing it, and 3 dads and little Tommy or little Sally may move to Texas and enroll in our public schools and engage in our services? How do the 3 dads who have all shown up with vested rights affirmed by a state, much like a driver's license, we have a reciprocity mandate, and we accept parenting, as best I can tell. How will that work? Does that mean if you go to another state and you get custody, one of these, Pennsylvania or Louisiana, plenty of people from Louisiana are living in Texas, right? California or any of these, Delaware, these New York, these states that are allowing it, and they show up in Texas, what do we do? What will our court system do? What will our public schools do? Our government-run schools, are they going to say, oh, yeah, all 3 of you have the same rights as a traditional 2-couple family, 2-parent family? Do they all 3 dads have the same rights under the laws of the state, which we believe here in Texas recognize 2 parents? We just have a conflict. We have a conflict of values and conflict of laws. I've not seen an example in Texas, but I bet you they're here. We have more than 30 million Texans, people living in Texas. I suspect some of them qualify. Some have come from other states and have been afforded 3 or more legal parents. So what do we do with it? What do we do in the eyes of the law? What do we do in the school system? What do we do regarding essential medical care? And what happens if there's a custody battle or a divorce among these 3 men, or separation, I guess? I'm not familiar with a state that allows more than 2 to marry, but you never know. So we have custody rights, 3 men, 3 women, any combination thereof across a number of states, and we've had that occurring for 20-ish years. What happens when they move to Texas and they want to enforce those rights? What do we do? What do we think our courts will do? What should our legislature do? And what about just us, society, instead of we're always relying on government? Because government's going to let us down. We've seen that time and again, $20 billion plus surplus. They're just handing it out to Hollywood, who are indoctrinating our children with these schemes, with these notions that you're a little boy, but you're really a little girl. And, hey, Timmy can have 3 dads. And, hey, it's right and appropriate for this 6'5", 250-pound, 40-year-old man who's dressed in full drag to be reading you books in the library. All things that you and I and folks like us had to go and force upon the legislature, force them to act and to protect us against such wrong-headed indoctrination. Why do we think that 3 dads will be any different? I don't. I mean, these guys have let us down on a number of issues up and until we have forced them. So I don't have the answer for you because I'm just unclear of what the law is on this issue. I don't believe it's been tested. But frankly, Mr. Younger, the guy who lost his little boy to a radical mom who took that little boy to California and turned him into a girl. We hadn't seen situations like that either. And Texas Supreme Court totally abandoned him. These guys have a lot to account for. I don't understand how these Republican justices just said, tough. I think they failed this guy 100%, failed this family, failed that little boy. And I wouldn't at all be surprised if 3 dads showed up contesting issues with little Sandy, their 6-year-old daughter, and the Texas Supreme Court either caved to them or said we don't have clear direction from the legislature and punted, which is what I think they did on Younger. We all had to come together and go pass a law that never should have been passed. We shouldn't have needed to instruct the courts that it's illegal for a deranged parent or any other adult to tell a 6-year-old little boy, you're really a little girl and we're going to give you hormone blockers as you age. That's fundamentally wrong. We just shouldn't have had to go and instruct the courts to not allow this. Instruct doctors in the state of Texas to not allow this. Tell them we're going to punish them through fines and or exposure to criminal harm so they'll protect that little 6-year-old boy from an adult who is clearly broken-minded on this issue. So what happens now when some of these 3 dads show up in Texas and want to flex and want to use their rights as provided by another state, giving all 3 of them shared and equal custody and access and authority to that little girl, to their child? What's going to happen in Texas and why? You and I, ought to be able to just focus on lowering property taxes, making sure our public schools, our government-run schools have accountability so our kids can get a better education. We're having to go and fight over these extreme and bizarre notions of a society. It's just shocking, but it's happening. And we do have a duty to protect our children. You and I can do that together. We can also force these guys, the legislature, to lower our property tax burden. And if the Texas Supreme Court and our other judges can't be forward-looking enough to know that it is morally wrong for a mom to abscond with a 6-year-old boy to California so that he can become a girl, then we're going to instruct them otherwise, and we're going to show them otherwise. This cannot stand. This is Anthony Holm, host of Politics with the Big Dogs. Send a note. I don't know what to say. This word throuples, first time I had heard it, I'm 53 years old. First time I had heard it is in the last 5 days when it was presented to me that a court in Canada said 3 adult men all get to equally adopt and be listed on the birth certificate of a little girl. I thought, well, that's just crazy. Oh, thank goodness, thank God it's in Canada and not here. Guess what, folks? It's here. I have a question for you. Do you believe before the end of 2026 that we will see throuples, these 3-unit parents, in a mainstream television show or movie? I'm shocked by the number of gender transition characters there are in mainstream television. What is it? The X-Men series, the the Marvel series has a woman who identified as a man, and all the other characters, now I see it. Why didn't I notice it? I'm sorry, was their reaction. I understand completely. I'm so proud of you for coming out and saying this, right? These are the events that have occurred in the last 2 and 3 years. Targeting programs for children and young adults in Texas and America by Hollywood to indoctrinate them into this is right and appropriate mentality and conduct. And we all have watched over the last 30 years or 25 years where gay men marrying was indoctrinated into the mindset of America through Hollywood, television, and movie programming, and then ultimately legalized, right? There's a clear textbook manual of how the liberal left indoctrinates American society into very suspect social beliefs. And it went from gay marriage less than 25 years ago to sexual transitioning of children. And in the interim along the way, the famous forcing the baker in Colorado who was staunchly devout in their faith to either make a wedding cake for a gay couple or shut down their business. Through the force of law, the judge in the court said, you shall bake cakes for gays, even if it's against your religious values, or go out of business. We all remember that. It's vaguely firing memories in your mind. I believe that baker decided to go out of business until the court was overturned and said, no, you don't have to do things that are against your religious values. And the gay couple, of course, wanted to make an example out of that Christian baker. You shall not refuse to our service. What? Since when does a private actor have an obligation to give service? Of course not. We see stickers all the time in restaurants and gas stations and otherwise. Restrooms are for patrons only, or we reserve the right to refuse service if you don't have shoes or a shirt on. We've grew up seeing this. It's a conduct and a standard of America. Yet Hollywood has been normalizing these really radical positions of child gender transitions, of men in full drag showing up at libraries and grabbing our kids at a young age. And the librarians and the school principals allowing it to happen. And people cross-dressing into the mainstream, into the norm, and saying this is okay. And now, 3-parent custody events. Imagine this. So my question to you is, how long until Hollywood starts shoving this down our throat? Before or after the end of next year? Usually takes about 16 months to make a movie, as I understand it. So that's why I've said, okay, I wonder if December of 26, this will be force-fed to us. And by the way, if you all are already seeing it and I'm just not aware, let us know. Go to politicswiththebigdogs.com. Send us a note. Show us where we can see this. Praise old Elon Musk for pointing out the obvious on Netflix and people canceling it. We've just got to vote with our feet in our pocketbooks and say, this is wrong-headed. Stop trying to indoctrinate my children. And if we're seeing this, or when we see this, 3 or more parental units, light us up here at Politics with the Big Dogs. Go to our X account, politicswiththebigdogs.com. Go to Facebook. Let us know. Help us. Let's have a discussion about it. And if somebody disagrees and says this is good and in the highest good of the child, I'm open to that discussion. I want to learn. I want to understand how you came to that and why. We all do. If we're wrong, show us. Show us how normalizing 3 moms, 3 dads, or a combination of 2 dads and a mom is beneficial to that child as opposed to confusing and wrought with tremendous legal consequences and unknowns. And how we in Texas can avoid a situation where 3 dads show up, move to Texas and say, no, we're all the dads and there is no mom, and you must give us the rights and authority and accountability that come with 3-unit parents. We might have to. I'm really unclear on this conflict of law, if there is one, and our elected Republican judges in Texas. Are you going to stand for something? Are you going to fall for anything? The proverbial line from that great country song. Like, what is happening with our judges? And it's time for them to get in front of this. And if we as a society need to get in front of this, then let's do it, because we just can't count on these folks to do the right thing when we need them. And if we need to legislate this, then it won't be too long. We'll be in another session. In fact, there's strong potential for a special session. We'll take care of this ourselves if we must. Go to politicswiththebigdogs.com and let us know what you know. Let us know what you're seeing. And if you have a notion or a thought that it will or will not be in mainstream media before December of next year, we'd like to hear it. I'm Anthony Holm. You're listening to Politics with the Big Dogs.
Now, more Politics with the Big Dogs. Here's Anthony Holm.
All right, folks, and we've got to give some time to this continuing debacle. Oh, poor Jeff Leach. This is Anthony Holm, Politics with the Big Dogs. You've heard us talk about some of these issues in the past. Today, we primarily focus on this Throuples, this notion that 3 adults can adopt a child, and turns out that it's common in 10 or 12 different states. I haven't found an example of it in Texas yet, but it's probably heading our way. It's in Louisiana and Pennsylvania and elsewhere. So another battle we're going to have to take on as fighters for freedom and those who love liberty. But something else that we need to speak to, because it wasn't too long ago that we all had a discussion about the poor old Jeff Leach, a Republican state representative from Collin County area, the Plano, just north of Dallas, right? So this is a fella who's best I can tell, a defense lawyer and chair of a committee, and he wanted his committee to pass his bill. And in Texas, as you guys may recall from some of the discussions we had in the past, if there's an 18-wheeler driver, a semi-truck driver who causes a crash, and of course, I've told you guys before, and I'll say it again, I was licensed to drive 18-wheelers and qualified on tankers and hazardous materials because I do, frankly, so much litigation in this space. I litigate a lot of the 18-wheeler crashes. So the law in Texas is interesting in that a lot of these drivers don't know English. They can't read English. And often, sadly, they're driving on CDLs, commercial driver's license, issued by other countries, Cubans and Haitians. And, they show up and say, oh, no, I have a CDL. See, look, it's from this other country. We don't know if they're well trained, of what the situation is. They often can't speak English, can't read English, and they get in a crash and hurt somebody or God forbid, kill somebody. Unfortunately, it's really common. President Trump came out a few months ago and said, hey, this is a safety feature. Every state, every driver, every semi-truck driver in America has to have basic language skills. He's got to be able to read English at minimum levels. He's got to be able to speak English at minimum levels. In fact, the Secretary of Transportation said these are massive 80,000-pound trucks, and they're being these CDLs and these licenses are being issued to dangerous foreign drivers, oftentimes illegally. And that's a combination both of poor language skills and also they're often not here legally. This has been a battle over the last 6 months or so. And poor Jeff Leach, this Republican state rep from Collin County who calls himself a conservative, we'll see. The law in Texas says, hey, if you can't read or write English, you drive an 18-wheeler and you get in a crash, the jury's automatically going to learn that you can't read or write English. Go figure. It kind of makes sense. It's much like, we've been talking about this show where, hey, man, why do we have to legislate these things? They're common sense. Well, Jeff Leach comes along and he authors a bill, and he almost passed it, frankly, that said, oh, no, a jury doesn't learn this. It's not automatic. They won't learn this. Well, right, this was during regular session, and he said, hey, I'm going to pass it again. This guy's just dug in to ensure that foreign drivers who hurt and kill our people have every protection he can possibly give them, right? Foreign CDL drivers or non-English speaking is a more appropriate way to say it. So since then, Trump says, no, this is a safety feature. Everybody must know English. In Texas, you didn't have to know English. The law says you don't have to know English, but if you don't and you crash into somebody, then the jury's going to hear it. Subtle but significant distinction. I'll bet all of you listening say, hey, we thought they did. Well, more recently, the federal government updated the regulations that are applicable to semi-truck drivers. And they said, no, we're going to stop issuing what are called non-domiciled CDLs, commercial driver's license. So, if you're here illegally and you're trying to drive on foreign CDLs, and we're going to stop. We've got too many people getting killed on America's highways and roads. That was a federal event. Well, Governor Abbott said, absolutely stop. Stop issuing these CDLs. Stop issuing them to Cubans and foreigners who can't read or write English proficiently, who can't show that they were trained, who can't prove their immigration status. So the snowball that is common sense that we all, we've all been driving down the road and felt an 18-wheeler right beside us going 70 miles an hour, and it's really imposing and scary because if they decide to drive over you, you're unlikely to live. And often we'll have one right behind us, way too close, going, 70 miles an hour, carrying 70,000 pounds, and one to our right, and a big cement divider to our left. And here is poor old Jeff Leach just saying, we got to protect those foreign drivers who can't read or write English. We got to make sure that if they hurt or kill a Texan, the jury doesn't learn they can't read or write English. They just got to sit there and be quiet if they're ever in trial. Now, I don't know of Jeff Leach's intention to try to change the law in Texas to oppose Trump. I mean, clearly he's opposing Trump on the English mandate, reading and writing. Clearly he's opposing Governor Abbott on that English reading and writing mandate. But now there's a new mandate. And the new mandate is, if you're an illegal alien or you can't prove you're here legally, then we're not going to give you a CDL. Again, common sense, CDL, commercial driver's license. We're not going to let you drive these 70, 80,000 pound semis at 70 miles an hour on our highways and potentially hurt people. I believe it also applies to somebody showing up saying, hey, I'm from Cuba, I'm from Haiti, I'm from, West Africa, and I learned how to drive these semis over where I came from, so put me on the road here, because that's what's been happening, and they're killing people, right? Trump responded to as kind of the proverbial straw, the last straw to break the camel's back, a terrible crash in Florida, the state of Florida, where a truck, as I recall, is a trucking company run by Sikhs, which is religious and ethnic designation, as I understand it, but wearing turbans, unable to speak the language, killing people on our roads. So here comes Jeff Leach to the rescue, and I bring it up because Trump and Abbott are trying to make our highways safer, and hallelujah. I see so many people injured by semi-truck drivers who are out of control. Many of them don't have language skills, just straight up. There's a lot of causes for the harm and the injury, but these vehicles, semis are just so much bigger than anything any of us drive, and when they just hit us even going slowly, they can do so much damage. So Trump and Abbott trying to protect us, Republican Jeff Leach, Collin County, trying to protect them. And now poor old Jeff Leach is going to have to come up with a new bill, an expanded bill that allows foreigners and folks who are here illegally to get issued commercial driver's license for these semi-truck, so they can drive semi-trucks, because guess what? President Trump and the Secretary of Transportation at the federal level said, no more. We're going to restrict non-domiciled commercial driver's licenses. We're not going to issue them. And Governor Abbott instructed DPS to abide by that and to stop issuing them as well. So Abbott did this the end of September, and I flagged this for us all because poor old Jeff Leach is just going to have to dig deeper in his little hat of tricks and come up with more bills that are more expansive to protect these foreign, non-English speaking, non-English reading semi-truck drivers. But folks, these are the type of fights that we, rational and real conservatives, are having to take on and dilute our advocacy of lowering property taxes, right? The Jeff Leaches of the world don't have to lower our property taxes. They don't feel the squeeze because we're having to fight Jeff Leach, for example, on making sure that guys who kill us in semi-trucks can read and write English. This is absurd. These types of battles should not be happening. We, you and I, should not have to go and tell the Texas Supreme Court, guess what, folks? You're elected as Republicans. If Mr. Younger is trying to defend his 6-year-old kid so his ex-wife, who's a pediatrician, cannot take that child to California for a sex change, you ought to help him. Texas laws help him. Don't pass the buck. Don't be afraid. If you're afraid, get out of there. Mr. Leach, if you're afraid, get out of there. Texas Supreme Court, if you're afraid to do the right thing, get out of there. What is happening when Republicans elected at the state legislature are saying values, talking about your values is wrong, your religious values, community values, your family values, talking about whether a semi-truck driver who's drunk and kills your pregnant wife can read or write English is wrong. Both of these Republicans tried to stop in the state of Texas. And the Texas Supreme Court has been going with them. This is just so wrong-headed. Hallelujah that President Trump is the president and that Abbott is following him. I'm very grateful to Governor Abbott for following him. But look, President Trump pretty much came out of nowhere, and many of us forget that, and America forgets that. I suggest that he came to be and got the type of tens of millions of Americans following him because we were so disgusted with fellows like Leach and Schwartner, so-called Republicans who are fighting common sense, who are trying to outlaw values, religious values in our court system, and these judges who are going along with it, who aren't defending a dad whose radical wife is trying to steal their 6-year-old son for a gender transition surgery or process in California. Or the Jeff Leaches of the world who are like, hey, we got to defend that foreign semi-truck driver who can't read or write English. We can't let the jury know that. That's wrong. What is happening to Texas values and common sense when we're having to stand up and use our time and life energy to advocate for the most basic and obvious of community values and split our time from putting pressure on them to shrink the size of government, to give us back all of the property taxes that we're paying them? They had a $20 billion surplus, and they gave back virtually nothing. But they're out hobnobbing with all these Hollywood actors and giving $600 million in our tax dollars to Hollywood to make more programs, subsidize their work, and make more programs, no doubt, indoctrinating our children. We're out here canceling Netflix and trying to stay alive on our highways when foreign truckers are out of control as a sign of, hey, this is not in keeping with our values. And these guys are coming to Austin and coming to the courts saying, we know better. We're going to go and have cocktails with Hollywood, and we're all going to interface and do totally inappropriate things with all these lobbyists. Oh, we know better. Nobody's paying attention. We're going to go pass these type of bills. We're going to defend foreign truckers who can't speak our language. We're going to oppose values, the use of values in the court system. What has happened to Texas when you and I have to stand shoulder to shoulder to stop Republicans from their tremendous violation of our community values and principles? Go to politicswiththebigdogs.com. Share this. Share your stories. Give me your feedback. Go to Politics with the Big Dogs on Twitter. Communicate with us. Follow us. Facebook, which doesn't want to post our information, right? Because they're censoring conservatives. They're helping the Jeff Leaches of the world. They're helping the Charles Schwartners who are trying to oppose values in Texas court system. Folks, we've got to come together to remind these elected officials they are servants of the people. They are servants of us. They do not have the power. We give them the power. They do not create the value system of our state and our family. We created our value system, and we share that with them, and our expectation is that they will implement it into law and legislation. Certainly we can do better. Thank God we're in Texas, but we are going to have to do more. Clearly we're going to have to do more. The courts and the Texas Senate banding together to try to outlaw value. Who'd have thunk it?
Politics with the Big Dogs with Anthony Holm is supported in part by the First Amendment Alliance Education Fund. Learn more about today's guest and hear other episodes online in our archive. Visit politicswiththebigdogs.com. If you have a question for Anthony Holm, email Anthony at politicswiththebigdogs.com.